games and gamers together now have the sheer magnitude to be a significant unifying force for the world.
If I'm to choose between a greater and lesser evil, I'd rather not choose at all.
You were almost a jibble sandwich.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Be better.
Check this out.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the 344th episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. I got a lot of problems with you people. I am Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan 8-Bit, and joining me on this fantastic airing of Grievances 2023 Festivus edition are my boys, just going from around the room on the Riverside studio. Cameras here. I'm looking at Matt Tilby, who you can find at It's Tilby, Jono Peck, who can be found at Jono himself, and Buddy Watson, who can be found at Buddy Watson 12. Gentlemen, welcome back to the studio. It's been a hot minute. I've missed you all. I'm loving looking at your faces. How the bloody hell are you?
Very good, very good. It's good to be back after a couple of weeks away.
It's good to be back to complain. Like, you know, that's what this is about. We're whinging and we're spitting venom today, which is a little against what we usually try and do, but let's do it. Let's get into the hate. Let it flow.
It's generally not against what I do, so it's been great to be back here. The residency is just finished for me, so I'm fresh. I'm fresh, back in the mood. I've had my 3 or 4 weeks here, and I'm back in the groove. I'm used to throwing out those hot takes and getting angry and being a whingy old man. So when you said there was a whole episode dedicated towards that and that I could come along, I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, I didn't even get to finish the sentence and you already knocking on the door saying, hey, when are we recording this episode? Because I'm in. I've got some complaints. I've got some fire that I'm going to drop on all these dirty scumbags out in the gaming industry.
I was like, shut up. Shut up, Brendan.
Give this to me.
Hello.
This is mine.
I was only a little bit hurt, but it's going to be a good time. So yeah, listeners, if this is your first time tuning into a Hungry Gamers episode, first and foremost, sorry, because it's probably going to be a bit of a wild one tonight. But if it's your first time hearing the term Festivus, yeah, what it is a spin-off holiday season that was celebrated in Seinfeld way back when, and we've decided to run with it here on the Hungry Gamers. And every year we air our video game related grievances. So we're going to talk about gaming disappointments, issues within the industry, things that we've experienced that is so bad that they're somehow so good, and everything else in between. So the takes will be hot. The spice will be like not butter chicken level. This is certainly like Vindaloo style, like get ready to tap your anus when you wipe later, because it's going to be so red raw, because the takes are going to be so spicy. So get the milk ready, listeners, to put it in your ears, because we are bringing the fire today. And I guess we can start with maybe this first one off the rip.
Let's rumble!
Which is biggest gaming disappointments of 2023. And my first disappointment I'm going to air straight off the bat is Riverside doing me dirty here today on this recording session, because none of the drops are working. I'm going to have to do so much work in post. So Riverside, I love you, but fuck you tonight. So, all right. So we're talking gaming disappointments that have happened in this calendar year, and we've had some great influence and great responses from the 8-Bit Nation. So what I've done is I've combined all those fantastic responses, combined all the duplications and the similar thought processes, then chucked it all in ChatGPT to give me a nice summary, and then I've retweaked it accordingly for something that's a little bit more flow on here with THG. So boys, the 8-Bit Nation say, the gaming landscape has been rife with disappointments lately. Redfall, despite its promises, fell short, leading to unwarranted hostility towards its developers. Jedi Survivor suffered from an uneven release, presenting a brilliant game marred by bugs and poor performance. Atomic Heart being touted as a successor to BioShock and ultimately being drowned in the rapture did it no favors either. Forspoken, while it looked stunning and at times played great, was marred with horrible writing. The Lord of the Rings Gollum, even though no one predicted to be in the Game of the Year conversation, was still far worse than anyone had ever imagined. And knowing that the Tolkien estate has been sold off to the highest bidder does not bode well for this universe moving forward. Starfield, though vast, lacked depth, played by excessive menus, broken mechanics, and forgettable characters. The Walking Dead Destinies, Jesus Christ, where do we start there? And The Last of Us Part 2's multiplayer joining Joel's daughter in the heavens was a late emotional moment that put yet another black mark on an overall difficult 2023. So that is the overarching vibe and feeling of 8-Bit Nation. But boys, add to what I've just said, or we can go down our own respective paths and share our gaming disappointments. So, Mr. Tilby, I'm looking at you first in this camera. Tell me about your gaming disappointments, or add on to what I've just mentioned.
We're 5 minutes in. You've already crushed Buddy's heart by mentioning The Last of Us online,
With spoilers,
which I think
too.
is a little harsh. Yes.
It's only 10 years old.
But
Yeah.
well, exactly. The one that's just come out, that's very topical, John. I think you know the one. But look, for me, the biggest one really had to be AEW Fight Forever. I know we've got a couple of wrestling fans in this parish, Buddy especially, but it was something that I discussed when we talked about it on The Hungry Gamers when I was doing my residency in October, and was really excited about it. Was looking forward to something that was probably more of an arcadey, I don't want to say competitor, but more of an alternative to WWE 2K's more sort of realistic approach. And obviously delays and problems with its release just meant that when it came out, it felt undercooked, immediately out of date. You know, people who weren't there, important wrestlers being locked behind a paywall, and generally just really lacking in content. Like the game is fun to play, don't get me wrong, but there's just so much else around that game that feels very rushed and underdeveloped and really sort of harms the overall experience, to be honest.
That's justified. Buddy, do you want to drop an elbow on top of this pile of bodies laden with chairs right now, or what?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it. I definitely agree with everything you said there. I actually reviewed this one over for Explosion Network. I gave it a 7.5, and I was probably one of the higher reviews scores out there. I think Adam from Well Played, who was also a wrestling fan, gave it 7.5 as well. But criticisms were basically the same as what you said, Tilby. That the gameplay was amazing and awesome, and for someone like me, he was a lapsed wrestling fan. Going back to older systems like No Mercy was like such a treat and loved it, but the content is just so bare bones. Like the creator wrestler, there's not a lot of kind of parts or attire, or even kind of slots that you can kind of manipulate and come up with something creative, which I thought would be cool. And yeah, the career mode is pretty small and short and non-existent. So there's not a lot of reason to replay the game outside of just the wrestling with the roster that's there. And like you said already, it's kind of outdated by the time it came around. So I loved the wrestling, and I would give that a 10 out of 10. And I loved my time playing it, enjoying it. It's just kind of bounced out really quickly. So for people that have the WWE games or have played those in the past or play them in yearly, every second year or something like that, you're going to be massively let down and probably crushed by this. For someone like me that was, a lapsed wrestling game fan and from a bygone era, kind of dabbled with the other ones more recently for a couple of hours here or there, this might rekindle your love, but I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. So depending on the price point, you might not get a lot out of it. But yeah, it was a good throwback, but I can definitely see this as being a big disappointment for a lot of people.
Is there anything, because they're sort of shifting this game into a bit of a live type of mentality where they're going to have new roster additions rolling out at some very intermittent frequency from what I can gather. Is there a wrestler or a stable or a mode that if they implemented it into Fight Forever, it would pull you boys back in and maybe convert it from a disappointment to a highlight? Or is it sort of is what it is?
They would have to totally revamp the creator wrestler and kind of layer system and what you can and cannot do at the moment. And then inside that, you'd have to have the options inside those layers and what you'd be able to create, so you can pretty much come up with some of the wild creations that you could come up with in the past. Like some of the no DQ core leagues and some of the stuff that you see online now that are shared through the creation portals in 2K. So that would probably be the biggest thing for me, to go back and create some cool characters and make up kind of my own feds or leagues or fantasy booking.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think the community creations in WWE 2K for me is kind of the thing that sort of keeps me coming back, knowing that, a wrestler's debuted in Impact or AEW, I can immediately go in within like hours and pick up their attires and movesets and sort of mold the game the way that I want it to have it through the really hard work that a lot of these people are putting in to sort of make that happen. So without it, the sort of continuing, paywall of these wrestlers coming in, like that's fine. I'll probably stump up the $15 for the new season passes coming out and the maps, okay, like the arenas occasionally, but like putting FTR behind it, like as I said, putting FTR behind a paywall is not great. Like, there's no Samoa Joe, there's no Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana. They're only just bringing in Tony Storm. Like, it's just not a good way to endear yourself to fans of the company and wrestling in general by sort of drip feeding them like this.
They blew all their money signing Will Ospreay in real life, I guess. Tony Khan's got to find a couple of billions under the couch cushions to keep this moving forward. JP, you've got one that was mentioned in the Voice of the Nation, and also one that I thought about putting into my notes. So tell me your disappointment for 2020.
Yeah, so I didn't go into this year hyping myself for Atomic Heart. It kind of just fact that it existed at all took me by surprise. But once I saw it was coming to Game Pass, I was getting very excited because it's visually, a very pretty looking game. The aesthetic of alternate history Russia is quite interesting and unique, and I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. So, based on the cinematic presentation going into it, I was hoping for as I think you mentioned BioShock before, but like BioShock Infinite meets Wolfenstein Colossus or something like that. And what it was not anything like that. It was weird. It was a weird tone. There was a mismatch of humor and seriousness and just over-sexualized jokes coming from robots and all kinds of stuff that you just kind of scratch your head. They had like racist cartoons they had to remove from the game and a whole bunch of critiques coming around some of the content, but mostly it just didn't do it for me. The enemy variety was really lacking for as much as I got through the game. The stealth component didn't quite really feel like it was fully cohesive with everything else that's happening in the game. So it was just really a great concept and idea that was half baked in my view. And I think most people would agree. It did get some really positive reviews. Like I think an 8 from IGN and some other quite high reviews, but generally I don't recall anyone talking about it after kind of the 2 or 3 weeks after it first released and stirred a bit of controversy and news.
Yeah, I was a first class ticket holder on the hype train for Atomic Heart when it was announced because it checked all the boxes for me. And then when it came to play it, those boxes were missing. And I'm like, oh, that's a shame. Like, I'm happy that it was offset by my Game Pass subscription, like you touched on. But yeah, Mundfish sold us a faulty bill of goods on this one. And yeah, I'm a bit upset about that because yeah, it looked great. The concept was awesome. But like you said, JP, it was just lacking in so many areas. So it's a damn shame because it had potential to be a bit of a sort of sleeper hit of 2023. And instead it's a forgotten memory. So yeah, I'm pouring some out for Atomic Heart as well. I didn't finish it. I got out of it fairly quickly as well. I think I maybe got halfway through and I'm like, you know what? There's better things I can do with my time apart from playing this nonsense. So laters. Yeah. So I'm jumping out just like I'm jumping out of this talking piece and saying, buddy, what is your biggest gaming disappointments of 2023?
Hype and broken promises. My most anticipated game for this year, even though I'm a massive Zelda fan, was The Last of Us Factions 2 online, whatever you want to call it.
Here we go.
And it was going to be my most anticipated game for next year, for 2024, and just keep rolling over until they finally released it. But yeah, I got the sad news earlier on in the week that it has been cancelled. Naughty Dog did their best to kind of throw out a PR statement that was very well manufactured to kind of make them look like themselves the heroes, which is yay and nay. There's probably 50-50 in there of like, yeah, that's cool. We want more single player stuff from you. If we had a choice between the single player stuff and, the online stuff, we'll always take the single player stuff, no matter how much I like that. But there's also another perspective of we could have had both if the scale was kind of dumbed down and you'd listen to the fans of that multiplayer mode and we actually got what we wanted. We weren't really asking for too much more, and it's more of the scope of Sony and their games of service model, which I guess we're going to be talking about soon as well, and how that kind of got out of hand. So the hype and broken promises, I guess you could throw that down into a lot of other stuff that you said before, Brendan, in the kind of the intro about Redfall and its promises, Starfield, being game of the year contender and Xbox savior and whatever that is, and another other disappointments from the year. So yeah, I feel like we get a lot of that in video games. It was just a year that we got a lot of it.
Yeah, it's sad to think about. I bleed green more than blue if we're going to go the Xbox and the Sony battle lines. I still love both. They're both my fantastic children that I neglect sometimes these days. But yeah, it's a shame that two of the biggest exclusives that we're going to put Xbox maybe back on the map or have them in conversation with the excellence as far as Sony's portfolio goes was Redfall and Starfield. And yeah, Starfield's like fine. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great game. It's not a perfect game by any means, but yeah, I feel that we were overhyped as we like to get ourselves into with both of those titles, and they were both enjoyable, but just sort of missed the mark. And Xbox is still hanging out in a distant second place, which is a shame. And that sort of ties into just my overall vibe. Like my biggest gaming disappointment is like the not the passion. Well, maybe the passion is probably the right way to say it. Yeah, like I've been really struggling this year with games in general. Like right up until this past year, like I'd be playing every single new release. I'd be hunting every single AAA. I'd be sacrificing sleep and just working my way through all these games. But I just don't have that drive in me anymore for whatever reason this year, where I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to start cherry picking things I want to play. Like we were talking offline, I still haven't played a minute of Tears of the Kingdom. I've nearly finished Spider-Man 2, which is great finally, but like even getting into Spider-Man 2 this year was difficult. Alan Wake's been fun, but I've been really erratic with my gaming choices this year, and it makes it tough. It makes it tough when you host a podcast about video games where you're meant to talk about the latest and greatest. I feel like I'm letting myself and the team down sometimes, but at the same time, like, you know what, if I'm not vibing it, I don't want to force myself. So I'm disappointed that I'm playing less than I ever have, but I'm also playing more of just the same stuff. Like Diablo 4 and Fortnite this year have been regular guests at my dinner table every single night, just about, where it's just good escapism. I just have to think, and I don't have to be enamored with what's going on. It's just a good time killer. So yeah, I'm disappointed in myself, boys. I'm going introspective here, and yeah, taking a shot at myself, because my passion, it's that little engine light sort of blinking at the moment. I don't know what to do. Send help.
I think you're doing okay.
It's okay to admit you have a problem.
Yeah. You're doing fine, Brendan. It's you didn't play Zelda. Like, we knew that you weren't going to play Zelda, so it's not a big deal. You know?
But I want to make giant wooden creatures with dicks that are on fire. Like I want to get into that absurdity, but I think I've just seen too much of it to have not an accurate enough feeling about that game. But I just know that, yeah, Zelda isn't a franchise that typically resonates for me. I'll get into it eventually, but yeah, I feel it's tough when you do these Game of the Year lists and you feel you need to hit all the big tent poles, and yet I've missed a few of them. I'm just like, ooh, someone's taking my gamer card.
You did play a lot of Baldur's Gate 3, Brendan, which was your New Year's resolution, if I believe correctly. So that's
yes,
should be
that
commended.
is bang on the money. And spoilers, it is my Game of the Year, so bearing the lead a little bit there. But yeah, it's a good time.
All I will say is, once you strap a rocket to a Korok, your tone will change. It will become your Game of the Year.
Okay, I need to explore this. I'm not sure if that's like a euphemism or
no, it's legitimate.
Have you guys got any other gaming disappointments you wanted to highlight, or shall we jump into the next piece?
Let's jump.
I think we just...
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
All right, so the next segment, listeners, is biggest grievance within/about the gaming industry. And here is the voice of the ATEBIT Nation. The video game industry faces numerous grievances that impact both workers as well as players. The trifecta of crunch, tight deadlines, and public frustration over delays result in toxic work environments and rushed, often subpar games, fostering a fix-it-later mindset amongst companies. The steady stream of layoffs further exacerbate the issue, leaving talented staff without job security in a booming industry that should provide exactly that, while also supporting them. Please unionize. Additionally, practices like season passes and the emphasis on live service models often prioritize monetization over player enjoyment, leaving consumers feeling more pressured to spend more after they already have paid full price. This trend of games as a service is especially contentious when imposed on games that don't require it, leading to a fragmented gaming experience and a very divided community. The Game Awards, once touted as the pinnacle of gaming recognition, face criticism for becoming more about celebrity appearances and dick swinging than honoring the hard work of developers and voice actors, giving them little time to embrace their moment of victory while playing second fiddle to Gonzo. And it was also extremely weak by Jeff Keighley, ignoring the plight of thousands laid off in the industry in 2023. Overall, these grievances highlight a need for better practices, fair treatment of employees, and a focus on delivering quality gaming experiences without exploitation or neglect. 8-Bit Nation mic drop, because that was some great wordage that they've all come together here to provide. And then, ChatGPT added some, and then I've added some other little bits and pieces there to make it flow. But I think that's apt. We're going to go back around the room the other way. I'm going to throw it straight to you, buddy, as far as if you wanted to sort of add more on top of that or share your grievance within / about the industry.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, I'll share some.
Take a deep breath.
Okay.
So I got a few. Yeah, it's all kind of segmented in one-word sentences here, so I'll just rattle them off and then I'll go in depth a little bit more. So the biggest grievance within the industry for me are acquisitions, subscriptions, services, which I feel like are a race to the bottom if we've seen anything to do with the movie and film landscape and the industry there. Physical media dying and becoming dead, with Best Buy obviously cancelling DVDs, Xbox Brooklyn, which was leaked, the future consoles having an all-digital console future there. Sony's games as services and being a little bit directionless. And then the other one was more about opinions on the gaming industry and more of media opinions from big sites creators being, I guess, tame, safe, or very homogeneous.
Homogeneous.
Homogeneous? There you go. Oh my God. Yeah, I've spelled it wrong. There we go.
I do like homogeneous, though.
Homogeneous.
Yeah. How good's that? Homogeneous. Oh my God. Terrible. And yeah, not like there not being enough different angles, spin, or perspective given in that kind of landscape. Indie creators also kind of regurgitating that said news or they same opinions without adding of their own opinion or more flair to that as well. And I don't just mean like your old man yelling at a cloud, outraged at everything. A good recent example has been like Second Wind, and they've been a good breath of fresh air like with their podcasts, Cold Take, Fully Ramblematics, and highlighting obscure games and design essays. And I didn't really listen to much of their stuff on the Escapists, but I'm finding the Second Wind and them having the shackles thrown off is quite good as well. So some of it being as far as like the game side of it, and then the reporting or the content creation or that side of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all 100% valid. Like I'm sticking forks in all of those statements because they are done. They are very, very accurate. And yeah, I can't really add much more to that because I think it was succinct. It was great. It was homogeneous, which I think is fantastic. Jono, did you want to sort of throw in anything additional or sort of add some more context to some of the things Buddy was saying there?
Yeah, I mean, Buddy's done a good job compiling that list together. We can all go home now. But...
I was running out of fingers.
Acquisitions, I'm glad you mentioned, because I think, especially not to throw Brendan under the bus, but as an Xbox guy, usually the Xbox acquisitions are viewed on the Hungry Gamers as more positives for Microsoft and for getting games on Game Pass, and that's pro-consumer and blah blah blah. But there's I guess there's always the other side, which has been acknowledged, that it can lead to people who don't have both consoles being limited as far as what they can access, and you have franchises that have lived on multiple consoles or however you want to see it finally acquired and then made exclusive to one platform. So there are many issues with that. That's not even getting into like the more broad, I'm having a mind blank. What was the big trial about ABK acquisition that you covered extensively, Brendan?
Oh, you're talking about the United Kingdom pushing back on regarding the cloud-based dominance, which was not really a thing.
All the internal emails and reports that have now been made public because of this acquisition that have showed Microsoft's hand in a lot of ways. We saw the reports come out that they wanted to acquire.
They're buying Nintendo and Sega. Get ready, boys.
And they want Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation, and then they don't want it on PlayStation, and it's just like it's causing some chaos in the corporate level of how these companies work. And for them to function well, they need to be on the same page, and and not kind of scrambling to cover off, things that they said. And you see people, and you have to speculate, like, are people at Bethesda happy that their games have been kept exclusive, and is Machine Games happy now that Indiana Jones is going to be exclusive? Because we're seeing comments that make it look like they were happy back then, but now the landscape's changed and maybe they're not so happy because PlayStation is outselling Xbox significantly as far as consoles overall. So it's just a very complicated and messy situation that is, far more complex than it first seems when the headline comes out that, some developer's been acquired or a publisher's been acquired. So we don't even have the full, like, we're going to look back at this in 5 years and be like, oh, wow, that really was the moment that everything started to change. And I hope that it's this, I can hope with all hope that it doesn't ruin what we have, because I think there will be like a golden era that we look back at, which was that PS4, Xbox One, the early days of the new consoles before everything kind of changed. But that's that's my perspective as probably more of a PlayStation guy looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, the acquisition thing is terrifying, and you see the inverse of that now, where companies like Embracer are just closing down studios that they've acquired left, right, and center. So on the one hand, you see Sony and Microsoft and studios like that doing good things with their mergers. That is, very corporate America, which is not always the best. But then you see Embracer, where they've just overextended their reach to a capacity now where they've just gotten approval to offset their tax payment for 12 months, where they owe, I think it was something like $400 million in tax that they can't pay right now, just due to their sort of the breadth of just all these acquisitions have just taken all their cash flow. So you see that end where it's bad. But I feel there is some optimism with some of the Sony and Microsoft based acquisitions. There is some turmoil amongst those purchases too. Don't get me wrong. You see about that enough. But I think the emails we saw where Phil Spencer's saying, I want to buy Nintendo, it's like the same as like me sending you guys a message saying, I'm going to marry Anna Diarmas or something. It's just like pie in the sky, nothing stuff. But if people take that and go, you know what? Phil's an evil man. He's going to take Nintendo, then he's going to take Bluey, then he's going to take this, and he's going to take that. He's going to take all the things I love. Like, I think it was just more so, what's your dream kill list here? What's your dream wish list? And Nintendo and Sega and stuff like that were on there. So I don't think Nintendo is going to be acquired by Microsoft anytime soon. But it still made you pause for a minute to go, holy shit, that is some ambition right there. Like that's not just taking the indie studio down the road. That's taking one of the big three, one of the pioneers, and gobbling it up. Like that's some big balls there, Mr. Spencer.
And it's taken the top one when Xbox are the bottom one. Like, clearly, it's such an embarrassing.
I think I said to Tilby when did we cover this story on Hungry Gamers? I said it's like the nerd in high school being like, yeah, I'm gonna ask the cheerleader to the prom, and she's gonna say yes. And all of his.
I've watched enough movies to know that happens, Jono. So Phil Spencer might take Nintendo to the prom one day.
Phil Spencer's gonna show up at her house with a boombox.
But it's all gonna be
playing just the Jack Black Bowser song from Super Mario Bros.
They're gonna get to the prom, and Nintendo's it's gonna turn out that it was a prank, and they were paid to do it or something. It was. It was a dare.
And I've watched enough remakes of Carrie to know that doesn't end well either. So either way, Nintendo better just accept the deal and move on. But Tilby, what did you want to throw into this broader discourse? Because I think Buddy's thrown a lot of good points here that overlap with some of our things, and then we can sort of circle back to things that maybe you or Jono haven't covered as well.
Well, I mean, I was definitely more discussing things that you've already mentioned as well. Like you mentioned the Game Awards being just a massive wank fest of an awards show. Like you can't really call it an awards show anymore, given the 30 seconds that people got and the please wrap it ups that everyone was being given for their speeches. And like, how dare you give a please wrap it up to Neil Newbon when he's addressing victims of sexual assault, just so that you can go to Gonzo and tell him and make like jokes about like video games and things like that. How dare you? Absolutely disgraceful behavior. And it just really goes to show that I think they definitely need to make some sort of Winter Games Fest, at least on the other side of like Jeff's Summer Games Fest, because you need to be able to separate the celebrities and game announcements from the hardworking individuals who are putting their careers and their livelihoods on the line just to make the things that we enjoy and the things that we play without a moment's hesitation. It's just such an absolute farce. And it was really prevalent this year, and I just couldn't hide it. Like Jono and Brendan definitely saw my disappointment in our Hoop Dreams chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a really sort of like underhanded approach to the whole thing. Not a mention for like this. Apparently now 10,000 people who have lost a job this year.
It's over. Yeah, it's getting close to 10,000 people have been let go this year in 2023 alone, which is terrifying to think about.
Not a single peep about that, or sort of like a very sort of underhanded let's play both sides sort of thing at the start of the show. And apparently leaked PR notes that anyone who was accepting an award wasn't able to talk about Palestine and all that sort of stuff, and not show their sort of support for things like that. Like, it just doesn't make that much sense. The other thing really I thought, like, and you've mentioned it as well, is the Embracer Group. Like, just the whole saga of them just chewing up companies and spitting them out and laying people off when they just didn't have the chance. I think the straw broke for me when they they sort of closed Free Radical, who had literally only come back as a company to make a new Time Splitters game, and they hadn't even had the chance to release it, and they've shut it down. And that was the point for me where I was like, this is verging on unnatural. This is verging on near criminal. And I guess just one at the end, you did mention Bluey. I think the fact that a Spanish shovelware studio was given the rights to make the Bluey official video game instead of a potentially hardworking Australian studio who could have done the show justice, I think is a real shame. Like, I know that it's based on like the BBC, who I think now own the rights to Bluey and can probably distribute those sorts of things out for everyone. But yeah, it's just not fun because the game itself is not great. Like, I out of curiosity, I've played it a little bit and it's not up to.
I platinumed it twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
What? It's very short.
It's a quick platinum. I played it with my kid.
That's fair.
PS4, PS5, double plat. I want to jump on what Tilby was saying about the Game Awards, and I think it's like becoming time that we treat it for what it is, which is the MTV Movie Awards of the games industry. It gets this reverence because it looks so glitzy and glamorous with the presentation and the celebrities, and everyone watches it. But we need to start treating the DICE Awards and the BAFTAs with more reverence and attention, I think, because they are awards shows that aren't decided by the media outlets that we're constantly complaining about. So why not treat them with that respect and get people to tune into that? I know people aren't tuning in because there's no trailer reveals and there's no, appearances from Hideo Kojima to announce what he's working on and stuff like that, which makes the Game Awards a spectacle and somewhat fun to sit through if that's what you're interested in. And I think a lot of people are, based on the ratings. It does better as far as streaming than probably a lot of mainstream awards shows, but it's not what we've built it up to be, I think. And I think for everyone that's out there saying they need to let the developers have more than 30 seconds to speak and they need to have them all come up on stage and give them the respect they deserve, watch the BAFTAs, watch the DICE Awards, or try to anyway, and let's talk more about them when we do our podcast content. And does anyone know what won Game of the Year at the BAFTAs? I don't, because it's it just doesn't get the same attention, and that's like a classy group of it's a classy academy. The BAFTAs, like it's the glitz and the glamour.
Like, I can't take the BAFTAs seriously sometimes because they literally call Bluey one of the 60 best games of 2023.
Yeah, no comment.
Well, John did platinum it twice, so you're probably arguing with the wrong man. So Vampire Survivors won Game of the Year last year at the BAFTAs.
That's a surprise, honestly.
And they've just announced their nominees for 2023 for the Game of the Year. And me just try and dig through this because there is a lot of bloat in this article. Hogwarts Legacy is there. Final Fantasy 16, Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, and Baldur's Gate 3. So
pretty similar to the Game Awards, really.
Yeah, just missing Super Mario Wonder and Resident Evil 4, and instead we get Hogwarts.
Which was not a great game.
Hogwarts is fine. Brendan and I both enjoyed our time with it, I think, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. The industry in general wasn't allowed to talk about it. That's a grievance I have with the industry, is pretending like a good game isn't a good game because you don't like the person whose IP it's based on. But I didn't write that down, so let's talk about what I wrote down, which is the triple.
No, let's unpack that, John. Let's unpack that.
The AAA obsession with games as a service. I think Buddy touched on this, but I definitely spoke about this when Tilby and I covered the Bungie layoffs. But the idea that games need to live forever and have a 3 or 5 year relevancy is absurd to me, as someone that isn't necessarily a big fan of that style of game and misses when a game could just come out and you play it and it's really fun and then you move on to the next thing. And they just seem to, when I say they, I mean the AAA publishers seem to think that that's not a viable thing to aim for anymore. We've seen this from Square Enix with the Marvel Avengers game that could have just been a really great, multiplayer campaign, but it had to have these elements tacked onto the end that didn't stick. We've seen it with the retooling of Suicide Squad Killed Justice League. And most notably, the death of The Last of Us Part 2 Online, or Factions, or whatever we're calling it.
Stop mentioning it. You're killing him.
I have to mention this because, and Buddy being here is proof of this. The version of Online that they made in the first game still has people playing it 10 years later, and that wasn't good enough for The Last of Us Part 2. In 2019, they announced we're going to keep Online out of this game and make it its own thing, and that didn't happen. And we saw a big Naughty Dog event that showed off where it's going to take place and blah, 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 blah. How much further into development did this game actually get? How much time was wasted that one of the best studios we have could have been working on something else? And we know they have been working on other things in the background, but how much money was wasted? How much resources wasted? Did PlayStation buy Bungie just to assist with their games as a service strategy? I know it wasn't just for that, but how much of it was for that reason? And whether that's being mismanaged or not, it's another topic altogether. But you talk about the statement before, Buddy, about Naughty Dog making themselves out to be the hero. It did kind of come across like it's Sony versus Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog stood up for themselves and said, "No, we're not going to be a multiplayer studio. We're going to commit to single player," and that is good. But it shouldn't have got to this point. They should have just, whether it's their fault or Sony, they should have just been allowed to make the game as they were comfortable with, as they had done in the past. But it turned into this thing that, not only is it not up to scratch with what it's been in the past, but it has to live forever. It has to be whatever Bungie considers as a viable 5-year, beginning to finish trajectory. Like it's freaking.
Here's a question for you, though.
The Division or something, huh?
It's a question for you, though. Like, would you rather a game that continually puts out updates and potential monetization in a way, or would you rather the EA Sports method of a new game coming out literally every single year? Like, that's basically what we're getting in this point.
It's a different thing, though, because sports don't change. There's not a narrative component of sports. It's not a different setting to explore in sports games. I think sports games could benefit from going games as a service, definitely. But that's not The Last of Us. And it's not, Fallout. Like, Fallout 76, to me, shouldn't exist. Like, I just don't think that should even exist.
It's not that bad.
But, like, there's there aren't a lot of people that love Fallout more than I do, and I can't even get into it. And I know that's a me thing because I'm not a game as a service multiplayer kind of guy, but I've tried to go back to that, and I just come back feeling empty every time. So I know I'm not the only one. I know that a lot of people have tried that game and gotten almost nowhere with it. And that's just another example where I think that's, and Buddy, I'd like to know what you think about this, but not everything needs to be that way. Like, give me the Division 3 or whatever, and I'll that can be my game as a service or whatever, but I don't want to play it for 3 years. I'll play it for a few months and then I'll dip out. And if most people play it for 3 to 6 months, that should be enough. It shouldn't have to be like, they're just squeezing every last drip of juice out of it. And even going back about 12 months to the Ubisoft Forward event from last year, almost every single thing they revealed was multiplayer or game as a service or mobile. And I was just sitting there like, where are the single player narrative games that
Where's
so
Beyond
many
Good and
people
Evil
love?
2? Where's that gone?
It'll be a game as a service when it finally comes out.
It'd be No Man's Sky with pig pilots. Like that's pretty much what it's going to be if that happens. But yeah, what do you reckon, buddy? As Jono mentioned and alluded to, he wants your thoughts on that talking point as well.
The thing is, games do live forever, and so do movies. Like, we're watching movies from the 1920s, 1930s, and they hold up now just as much as they did back then because they're story-driven and they're based. The closer we get to games as services and keeping updating and having this multiplayer cycle of new content, battle pass, microtransactions, all that kind of stuff coming in, it's that none of that speaks to creating the art of a video game. It speaks to making the money from a video game, and then that's completely lost. So those games could live forever as well. Like, I'm still playing Factions, right? It's not like I don't play multiplayer games. I love Factions. I like Apex. I haven't played that for a long time. Fortnite continues to be its kind of own thing and be quite popular and be a part of the zeitgeist and have enough variation into it that it kind of has these moments that you kind of had to be there, almost like a sporting event, whereas like, where were you when that map dropped or that event was in Fortnite? I think with the sports games, they do a really good job of like just reiterating just enough each year and roster changes where that fan base is used to migrating over to the next game and their online base is already there. Whereas some of the other stuff, like Factions, it doesn't have that, or they always need the pressure to put something in. But if you create something unique enough in a multiplayer aspect, then it can live with forever without that games of service kind of model or anything. So I always look at it like the Fallout 76 that you just said there. Does it have enough DNA of the Fallout game and the gameplay loop where a Fallout fan would want to play it and keep playing it regardless of it got updated? Because if they did do that and it didn't get updated, maybe then there is cause to keep updating it and keeping it fresh. I'm playing a game that's 10, 11 years old, and it has enough DNA in the multiplayer aspect from the single player stuff where it's unique and engaging and can live. But like I was saying, the kind of losing the whole DNA of what it is when it's just like, okay, we are making a game to make money or to keep updating. You're losing the vision of the art. If video games want to be taken seriously, then it's just like no different to a poker machine or being in a casino, right?
I think Jono tossed that ball up in the air for you to hit, and you didn't go for the bunt. You over the fence.
It was anime volleyball. He spiked it up.
Yeah, that was a perfect, not even a rebuttal. I think that was just a flow on from that question, that discussion. Like, I agree completely. Like, video games is art, whether it be live and updated tomorrow, next year, next decade, whatever else. Like, it shouldn't have to be always the new. It shouldn't always be the latest and greatest. I think you can appreciate something today and you can appreciate that same thing in 2033, 2043, etc., if it's good, but it's obviously relative.
And the problem is that, like, spins back around to what I was saying first about the acquisitions, subscriptions, the race at the bottom, physical media dying. They all kind of flow one into the other. My big problem with Xbox being the one that acquired Activision Blizzard is their model and their future is no discs, and all subscriptions don't own anything, right? When we look at a PS4, can't play PS3 discs, either can a PS5. If there was enough game preservation, as movies movies is losing that as well. But if we could access something from 1980s or 1990s, we could just download it and play it on a Nintendo console. If I could just log into my Nintendo right now and buy Nintendo 64 game or GameCube game outside of subscription, they can live on forever, older games, more than what they can, and they can generate you revenue, but they just want to have their cake and eat it and put everything behind subscription services or not making it accessible. So yeah, I think there's just one vicious cycle and circle that they're trying to milk. And
I think on both sides of that fence. Like I like having physical media. I like having physical things on the shelf that I can take off and watch or read or touch. But I also like to know that I've got everything in a subscription where I can be light and lean and just have a console and have all these games at my disposal. And I guess the main hurdle we face with the legacy stuff is just the licensing. They don't want to re-up to potentially pay for licensing to port something from several gens onto the latest, because like you said, it all ties into the focus and desire to make money. And it's easy for them to just make these live games as opposed to bring out these old classics and uplift to current gen. But yeah, it's something we're going to talk about every year. I think like we can jump into Festivus next year, next decade, and these same hit points will be on our docket. I'm very, very certain of that. But is there any other grievances related to the industry that you all wanted to air, or should we move into the next segment of this little old podcast?
And now, as Festivus rolls on, we come to the feats of strength.
All right, Jono. So I'm going to throw the hosting duties over to you here because, as is tradition with Festivus, there is a segment that happens in Festivus called the feats of strength. So myself, Buddy, and Matt will be going against one another in some game. We don't really know what's happening, how it's going to happen. So Jono's going to explain that to us, and we're going to see who wins the feats of strength. We don't know what the prize is. Maybe we can win the fabled Festivus poll. I don't know how that's going to translate on audio, but if the winner wants a nice shiny Festivus poll to hold, I can certainly make that happen. Read into that as you will. But Jono, the floor is yours.
All right, feats of strength. What's stronger than a few, three guys tossing each other around in a ring? This is a triple threat match. Get greased up, get into your tights, because we're going to enter the world of wrestling once again. But it's not AEW. It's the way I roll. We're talking WWE/WCW superstars of the 90s or 80s, I guess, if you want to go back even further. But we're going to remix an old favorite on the Hungry Gamers, which is the Cameo game. Copyright to Matt Tilby. We're playing the Brendan style, where I'm going to give you 7 people this time. You're going to rank them in order from who charges the most for their cameo message to a fan to who charges the least for their video message to a fan. And I also want the dollar estimate for the highest and the lowest of your 7. And whoever's closest will get a bonus point, and you might need that bonus point. So,
okay,
Lord.
Okay, I'm ready. I've written some notes there just so I don't forget how this is going to be scored. I'm pretty good. So you've got 7 wrestlers you're going to send our way from the 80s and 90s. Yep. We're going way back. Not Correct. Even like the Attitude. Oh, I guess we get a fringe of the Attitude Era potentially, but
yeah, they were all around for the Attitude Era, I would say, at least. So kicking it off, we have best-selling author, hardcore legend, and my favorite personality in wrestling, Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Nature Boy, but not a very good person, Ric Flair.
Ugh.
Kevin Nash, a.k.a. Diesel, a.k.a. Big Sexy, a.k.a. Shredder from TMNT movies.
Kevin Nash is an expensive one because he's got to pay for quad surgery.
And Ric Flair has to pay for hush money for all the sexual assaults.
Yeah. That's it. You might be onto something there. So Kevin Nash's much less powerful friend, X-Pac.
Oh, Sean Waltman?
That's him. Next is yoga extraordinaire and star of Ready to Rumble, Diamond Dallas Page, or DDP. My all-time favorite wrestler, Kurt Angle. Ooh. And you might know him from The Simpsons, or as a victim from the Montreal Screwjob, Bret the Hitman Hart. That is
okay. That's
7.
That's some heavy hitters there, Jono.
Yeah. So rank them from lowest to highest, And when you're ready, I'll get you to read them out to me from lowest to highest. And you can give me some of your reasoning, but we don't have all day, so don't go into detail on every single one. The victor will be declared by who has the most correct.
Okay.
I guess whoever gets their order sorted first will just throw the hand up and talk it through.
Yeah. So who's ready to go?
I'm close.
This is tough. This is so tough.
It's tough.
And you only want
It's
a monetary value for the lowest and highest.
for the lowest and highest. Otherwise, we'll be here all day,
I mean, we've already been here all day.
all night.
All right. I think I'll throw the hat in the ring.
All right, let's go, Brendan. I'll type them out as you go.
Okay, so my cheapest, I've got X-Pac in the cheapest slot, the
Okay.
dunce's position.
How much? How many
And
dollars? Australian dollars, by the way.
I've got him at 99. I'm going 99.
All right.
And then the next cheapest, I've got DDP. I figure he's got a pretty successful yoga hustle going on at the moment. Doesn't need to rely too heavily on Cameo. I'm going Mick Foley in the 3 spot because he is more of a giving individual. He appeared in some little indie league dressed as Santa just on the weekend. So, yeah, he's always giving back. In the 4 spot, I've got Kevin Nash. He's still got a little bit of celebrity, still doing some acting, but he's getting pretty old. He was in Magic Mike, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
buddy.
Yeah, he was too.
All right.
Good call.
In the 5 spot, Bret Hart.
Mhm.
In the 6th spot, I've got Kurt Angle, and then I've got Ric Flair as the most expensive. And I'm going to say for Ric Flair, like $1,100.
Ooh, that's a big one. Yeah, what are you thinking? Like, he doesn't know how to use his phone, so he's gonna really need to. He's gonna really
bit
need
of that,
to.
but also I've looked at enough cameos over the years, and especially this year with through THG, is you get these outliers where there is some that are 4 figures, and usually the higher end of the spectrum, they're anywhere from 1,000 to even like 13 to 1,400. So I'm going to say he's not at the high point, but he's right there. So $1,100 for the Nature Boy. Woo!
All right, who's next?
All right, I'll
As
go.
Goldberg would say.
Excellent cameo. Much like Brendan, I started with X-Pac. I went with $20
Okay.
for his cameo. Just keep it on the low side.
$20. That's like what, 12 American dollars?
Yeah.
I'm drunk in the valley and I'm going to order pizza. I'm like, fuck it, I might get a cameo from X-Pac.
X-Pac, what should I get on my kebab?
He probably have some good answers for you.
Yeah. All right.
I also went with DDP in the next one. At number 3, I went Kurt Angle. Number 4, I went Kevin Nash. Number 5, I went Mick Foley. Number 6, I went Bret Hart. And much like Brendan, I also went Ric Flair as the highest, and I think it's 1,500.
Okay.
My list is very similar to yours, actually, Tilby. And down the bottom, it's pretty similar. All right, let me know when you're ready, Jono.
Let's do it.
All right, I got X-Pac at the bottom as well. I got $100. I got DDP once again, the yoga, the giving, the care. I've got Nash down the bottom because maybe just not a lot of people care about Kevin Nash now. At number 4, I've got Kurt Angle. We actually purchased a cameo from Kurt Angle for one of our workmates who got promoted and left the store, and I think it was only like $150 AU. It was pretty cheap.
Okay.
And he turned it around with 24 hours. So that was a cool video to surprise him as one of his favorite wrestlers of all time. In 3, I've got like Foley. Number 2, I've got Bret Hart because maybe he's just bitter and trying to recoup so much money from being bitter, whether it's rightfully or not rightfully so. And then, number 1, I've got Ric Flair at the top. I went pretty low. I went $300. I don't really know how much cameos are, and I'm using kind of Kurt Angle as a guide because I thought he would be a big star. And I felt like a lot of the podcasters should be in the middle, down the bottom, because they're going lower because they've got more reach and they want people like to kind of pump them out more.
Volume based.
Yeah. Whereas Flair's got kind of nothing, an old man, and that kind of reputation. And same with Hart being an older wrestler. So that was kind of my thought process there. Foley, he has more accolades, so I wanted him up the top as well.
Right.
Okay.
Brendan, I have to ask you a point of clarification. Should we be playing Price is Right rules for the prices?
Where if you're over, you bust?
Yeah.
If you want to. I like Price is Right, and I can't pivot now for my own benefit. So I'll say, yeah, Price is Right rules.
Okay. Let's have a look here. I'm just going to crunch some numbers. And all right. X-Puck was, you guessed $99, didn't you, Brendan?
Mm-hmm.
And Buddy's gone with 100, right?
Oh no.
Okay. All right, so
And Tilby went with 20, didn't he?
Hey, I'm safe. I'm not going over. That's for sure.
yeah,
I don't have to worry about
so
it.
here is the correct order. The lowest of our entries comes from Mick Foley at $148.
Oh, I went
Very,
well under that.
very competitive price there, I think, for the hardcore legend.
Yeah.
The next lowest, you all said DDP. It's actually Kurt Angle at 149, which, as Buddy said, was pretty much spot on with your memory, but not quite as high as most of you had. Next in the list, you guys didn't give him enough respect. It's X-Puck. He's asking for 179 Australian.
I can suck it if he wants that price.
I watched China suck it in that homemade porno that they did.
Seventh wonder of the world.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
Next was Diamond Dallas Page, who asks for $222. The third highest was actually Bret the Hitman Hart at $224. Next was Kevin Nash, $298. And you all guessed the number one spot, which was Ric Flair. He's asking for $745.
That's
Ooh.
it. Oh
Yuck.
my god.
Yeah.
Absolutely yuck. Don't do that.
So Tilby and I busted on Ric Flair.
Yes. And
Don't phrase it like that.
I know
please.
nobody got X-Puck for the lowest, but Buddy did get the closest for the price for the lowest person, which was 100 to Mick Foley's 148. So I'm going to have to declare Buddy the winner, even though he only got Ric Flair correct. And
He got 1 point.
Brendan did get Ric Flair and Bret the Hitman Hart correct. So on a technicality, Buddy has won with a low blow right in front of the referee.
Look, lose if you must, but always cheat.
Yeah. I gotta say, I noticed it's these WCW wrestlers asking for all the money here. Flair, Nash,
Because they didn't get
Hitman,
paid. They went
DDP.
bankrupt,
Yeah.
man. They lost all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the old boys just chasing that cash.
Yeah, the
There you
lowest
go.
one, the lowest one I could find of note for me was Rhino at $60. So
That's a shame.
they're asking for a pretty penny, some of these guys, but it can be, like you said, Buddy, very worth it to get something from a near and dear figure from the youth. Brendan, myself, and a few other people in 8-Bit chipped in to get Cruzy a Matt Hardy message for his 30th birthday a few years back, and he didn't disappoint. That was pretty well done from Matt. Speaks very well, is very affirming, and I think it meant a lot to Cruzy. So yeah, if you're wondering for a creative Christmas gift and you've got to the last minute without getting anything, Mick Foley, $148, or Al Snow
Yeah.
for 70 or
Boys,
something.
my birthday's coming up in February. Look, if there's a particular baseball player you might want to see.
No one can afford a Shuhei Ohtani cameo.
Well, he's not getting paid the big bucks until the end, so maybe we can.
He'll just defer the payment until the end of his contract, so it'll be fine.
That's right.
It'll be fine.
That'd be nice. We can pay for the cameo in a decade's time. That works. That works.
And if anybody wants one from me, $20, reach out to me on Twitter, BuddyWatson12. It's basically just me saying hashtag and whatever game you want, game of the year, insert year.
And a bolt of beer.
Yeah, because now that Factions 2 is not going to be there, you're not going to sort of be conflicting emotionally with your actual game of the year. You'll just sell out to the highest bidder. I love that.
That's
I love that. All right, we're going to move forward now into the biggest grievance about the Hungry Gamers / 8-bit, and the voice of the nation is as follows. The absence of Ali, the Salt and Pepper Senpai is fine, but the Queen of Sass has left a big void in our hungry, hungry hearts. Even though you've gotten a lot better with delivering what you say, we still missed out on more 8-Crit and the Hungry Game Show. Those early promises were exciting, but sadly didn't amount to anything yet. Video content was great as well, but that has also dropped off as of recently. Maybe short form video is the way forward, ? There was also an extreme lack of maid-related outfits. So the main ones was constantly, and it's what we've been hearing every year since our arrival in this podcast space, is video. And yeah, we had some ambitions to do a few things this year with 8-Crit as well as the Hungry Game Show, which didn't occur. So I'm going to get ahead of the masses here. I'm going to jump in first and say, yep, video is still a big problem all these years on. And same as social media, I have a real love-hate with social media. I am on it out of necessity and not by choice, it feels like a lot of the time. So posting, updating, making little highlights and all that for what we do here on the reg is something I'd like to do, but I just don't have the emotional capacity to do that a lot of the time. So it just doesn't happen. So yeah, please don't be mad. It's just I hate social media, and I keep saying on social media, someone please come edit these podcasts. Someone please come make this stuff for us, because I think there's good stuff. There's a good mine to dig here for some stuff that we could do, but it just ain't happening. So I'm sorry. I make these promises with the best intentions and I don't deliver. I'm a horrible liar, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go high.
It takes a lot of energy to constantly promote something and to constantly be thinking of fresh ideas for video. Anyone that does it successfully with any level of creativity have to give respect to. They're probably a lot younger than us, Brendan, and with more ambition.
Youths.
Yeah,
it's the youths, Jono.
It is. But let's be real. Like 8-bit is, at this point, it's been through many iterations, and at this point, it is what it is. We're not trying to take over the world. We're just trying to kind of carve out a space in our community. We want people to tune in, have a good time, maybe get informed, have a laugh, hear some food puns from Brendan. We're not trying to become Rooster Teeth or anything. So we're not cranking out all this stuff. And there's not many of us here anymore. We're kind of dying off as far as like regular contributors, and myself included. Like, we grow up, we have kids, we have families, we get married, we discover anime and dedicate our entire life to it. And that takes up a lot of time.
Oh!
It takes up a lot of time. How are you supposed to edit a video when you're watching an anime? Like, it's a juggle that's not possible.
Especially if it's subbed only, because I got to give it my full attention. If it's dubbed, I can do the edit at the same time. But if it's sub only, I'm locked and loaded watching these poor little Japanese children deal with all these hardships in high school with love and romance and drama and demons that are about to abuse and assault somebody. So yeah, it's not easy. Not easy. But I appreciate those words.
Should I go on with mine? It's semi related. I'll take you back to January 7th, 2023. Almost a year ago, to be honest. And notorious anime lover Brendan White convinced notorious apathetic anime non-watcher Jono Peck to sit down and watch an anime for his new podcast, More Than Hentai, which I did, and I was enthusiastic, and I was eager to help this new podcast get off the ground. And that episode has not aired, and I can't help but feel like I was nothing but an audition for Brendan White to get his legs under him for a new podcast.
Jono, sometimes pilots don't make the air for TV shows.
Exactly.
Like,
I was the pilot. I was
You're
like
a guest that got recast.
Yeah, exactly.
You were episode 1 guest that got recast.
Oh man, I was. It was like when the first episode of Seinfeld and Kramer was called Kessler. That I'm Kessler, and I got replaced very quickly. And I have to wonder: was it me? Was I the problem? Was Brent? Was it because I was critical and I didn't like the podcast that Brendan picked,
you can't
and that would have
hide now.
undermined his entire strategy for this whole
You have to answer him
premise
now,
of this
Brendan.
show? Or was Brendan not quite confident in his delivery, the flow of the show? New segments coming out in the weeks to come. Brendan, this is your chance to clear the air.
All right. The very short version is that the podcast changed a lot in the subsequent 2 episodes I recorded a week later. So I've been trying to edit it in a way to make it flow and fit, because there's segments that would be missing now in this episode that is now coming out at episode 21 instead of episode
He's trying
1.
to polish the turd, is what he's saying.
Yeah, so I've got an edit that's 70% done, but anytime I listen to it, I'm not completely happy with it. And it's not on you. I like that there was some negative spin. It's just there was some things that were said in there at the time too, when things had changed within broader life. Some people that were mentioned at the time. So I parked it for a bit there because I'm like, oh, that's potentially delicate too. So I'm like, maybe I'll put this on the shelf. But it's still there, and I look at it every time I open up the MTH folder to edit these unfinished episodes, and I see it looking at me every single time. But it's gotten to the point where I need to say, Jono, I need to bring you back in to give the last word presented by our fantastic friends at japancrate.com. Use 8bit15 to check out 15% off and free delivery.
Such a shill.
But
oh my God.
because that part's not there, it just the episode doesn't flow like all the others. So I need you to come back in and give me your last word.
I'm willing, now that this has been acknowledged, I'm willing to scrap it. We can scrap it and we can do another one, and it can be the lost episode. Every great podcast needs to have the lost episode.
Okay.
But
I just got a $20 direct transfer from Jono. Oh yeah, I can do that for you, Jono. Hashtag release the Jono cut. Cool.
There you go.
It will come out one day. We definitely need to do another one, but it will come out one day. It's just I'm very critical with content a lot of the time, and if it's not exactly how I want it to be or as close as it can be, I just spiral and just don't know what to do with it. And that's where I'm at with this episode, to be honest. And it's not that the conversation was bad, it's just it doesn't fit in with the flow of all the other episodes now.
I get it. It's okay.
I'm sorry, Jono. The second I saw January 7th, I had a feeling what it might be, but I wasn't completely sure. So I came in blind to that one. But thanks. That was justified. Tilby, over to you, my man.
Yeah, well, look, I was going to say I'm kind of sad that the residencies might be ending, because this has been a fun mishmash of personalities and content throughout the Hungry Gamers over the past 6 to 8 months, definitely. Obviously, getting the chance to riff with you boys once again after 3 years away from the couch has been really good, and obviously getting Buddy in here as well. It's sort of like the sort of alternate universes of podcasting communities in Australia. It's good to just have that sort of opportunity to talk some shit with you boys and sort of really have some fun. But I think the sort of I was going to say it was fun, and then we had this complete and utter sort of mayhem that's occurred just now, and I'm not sure it is a good a bad. I'm not sure it's a bad thing that the residencies are ending. It's probably
do you know something that we don't know, Tilby? Because from as far as I can tell, there's still no permanent co-host. So I just thought that they would continue. Brendan, what's happening?
Yeah, now we're just going to fire at Brendan. This is the Q&A.
To be honest, I have no idea what's happening. I'm still trying to work that out. It's the story of my life, and yeah, I don't know what's happening with this and the residency and what will happen in 2024, but I'll report back the second I do.
Very good, buddy.
This is straight fire.
This was tough because grievance about the Hungry Gamers 8-bit. I was like, okay, what do I have a grievance about? And a long time ago when I was a part of 8-bit, I definitely had a list of things that I thought could improve 8-bit as a whole, which is funny to look back from 2019. A lot of those they've been implemented. So I was like, what do I not like about 8-bit? And then I'm thinking about my residency, and that's when it clicked. The one thing that kind of made my mind kind of click over each episode that I've been on. That the show is sponsored by a refreshing beverage named after a mid-30s virgin unemployed person who lives in his mum's basement, psychopath that I had to endure for multiple years. So that's probably the only thing that kind of like flips a switch in my brain.
There goes
that's
the
just like a wording
sponsorship money.
But it's weird because I actually want to try the beverage now, and I've like been looking at it when I go to Woolworths. I'm like, this would be good for the memes, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be good for the memes? So I'm actually closer to buying and trying one now. So
maybe lean into the memes, I reckon.
Not thank you, but yeah, maybe I'll do a video. Listen, if you can afford $20 to Buddy Watson 12 at I can drink one, put it down, and then hashtag your favorite game of the year.
If anything, what we should...
I'm going to do that after this.
No.
What we should be doing is actually paying homage to the fake Dash that we met at PAX this year, who was a genuinely lovely human being, James. If you're out there listening, James, we love your work, and we're sorry for ruining your weekend.
Yeah, he was great. I almost headbutted a stranger, so...
Yeah. No, buddy, I actually think of it every time it gets brought up as well. But so I'm glad it's not just me.
It's me too. Like I live and breathe this liquid, and every time I get a can out, like a little piece of my heart breaks away, or a little singular tear down the cheek, because I'm like, you're so delicious, but you're so emotionally bad for me. But I just can't quit you. I'm in like a very hard, unhealthy relationship with these cans, but they're so great. You know, no calories, no sugars, no sweeteners. Just fantastic refreshment.
They're not going to sponsor
Dash
you
Water, love you.
Stay refreshed.
Stay refreshed. All right, we're going to move into what was something you experienced in 2023 that was so bad it was good.
It's a Festivus miracle.
And the nation says as follows. In 2023, we were fortunate enough to experience several instances emerging where things were so bad that they became oddly enjoyable. Leading the pack were 2 video game adaptations that possibly lean more on the bad side of a really, 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 really bad coin. But the 8-Bit Nation was surprisingly pro-Gollum and Kong Skull Island. Was it due to both studios clearly mailing it in, or perhaps being out of their depth, somehow managing to even fumble their press release apology? Or is it the meminess of both titles that sparked a massive possible selling point? Who knows? But either way, they're the cherry on top of this disaster sundae, which is sprinkled with servings of AFL 23, the release of Overwatch 2, the Flash movie and its spotty CGI, shout out to Nicolas Cage, The Last of Us Part 1's PC release, enough said there, Jeff Keighley's obsession with Hideo Kojima, and Starfield allowing players to fill an entire spacecraft full of cheese should they choose. Mortal Kombat 1 somehow getting ported to the Nintendo Switch. Call of Duty continuing to be, in quotes, a bad game with a campaign that takes the same amount of time that Jono takes to devour a dozen delicious chicken wings. Redfall also staked many an Xbox fan right in the heart. Enjoyable with friends, but fairly miserable alone. Microsoft's first big exclusive of 2023 missed the mark, but it was still kind of okay, ? So, we're getting a lot of game discourse there. Shout out to the reference to some chicken wings. It made me immediately hungry when I saw that. But there's some similarities and vibes there, I'd say, with people on this podcast. So I'm just going to throw it straight over to Mr. Tilby. Tell me about your what's so bad in 2023 was actually kind of good.
Yeah, look, you mentioned it there. Kong, Skull Island, and Gollum, just this absolute race to the bottom of games that were just absolutely... I'm astonished that they even made it to the proof of concept phase for both of them.
The Walking Dead Destinies was also deserves to be in that list
contender.
too.
A late contender for me.
But is it actually any good? Like, I looked at that too, and I'm like, it's just so bad that it's so bad.
Well, yeah, I'm talking as far as games. Like this year's like some of the best games ever, and then there's like 3 or 4 that are just like absolutely, Life of Black Tiger or whatever. Like it's just absolute bottom of the barrel. How did this happen?
Like I've admitted that like I want to kind of play Kong for the memes, and having watched a considerable chunk of it, like other streamers and people playing it, risking their mental health to do so, it looks like a PS2 game. There's still images in place of like actual movement where it shouldn't be necessary, and like if you obviously like there's the big scene in Kong where the raptor attacks and it's just like a still image placed in front, and it just
that's the image of the year for me right there. It's the best.
it just ruins the entire flow and sort of intrigue in the game entirely. But it's like I kind of want to see how bad it is, and I know that I'll hate myself for doing it later. But yeah, look, there were just some absolutely just insanely dog shit games this year, and amidst all of the sort of hype and success of the big games, you know, we're seeing the sort of smaller games coming out, even backed by these rather large IPs that are falling well below the mark.
Very justified. I do want to play some Kong Skull Island, but I don't want to spend a cent on it. If I can get my hands on a free copy somehow, some way, I want to try it just to see how rough it is. But there is many a rough game. Many a rough game. I'm going to throw this over to Mr. Buddy Watson, who's still smoldering about Dash, but it's a delicious can. I'm drinking the raspberries right now. Recommended. A little overpriced, but they're delicious.
Use the discount code hashtag stay refreshing at your Woolworths checkout. Yeah, I don't know what to say here because I generally don't have FOMO over a lot of things, and I cherry pick what I want to play in the few games that I play each year and other stuff that I watch. But I've watched a few bad or terrible movies that were so bad it was good. So I'll quickly rattle those off. One was Cursed, which is from 2005 from Wes Craven. Basically about a werewolf stuff. Had a lot of rewrites. It is terrible. Some of it doesn't make sense. But it was a good time. MI2 in the lead up to watching the latest Mission Impossible movie. I hate Mission Impossible 2. It just feels like it has no soul compared to the first one.
But it has a banger soundtrack. Limp Bizkit.
It has a banger soundtrack. That was literally in my Letterboxd review. Bike Chase is still great, and at least we got in my new metal loving opinion a cool Limp Bizkit rendition of the MI theme. So for bad as what I dislike about that movie, it still has some really cool redeeming things. And the other one, when I was watching all my shark movies, I watched a movie called Orca from 1977, where a fisherman kills like a whale, like a whale's child or whatever. Calf, yeah, a whale's calf. Yes. Whatever they call it. And that whale comes back and like vows revenge on the town and basically destroys all the fishing boats, cuts off its kind of, because it's a fishing town, cuts off its like supply, destroying houses that are on the water, eating people. And it's basically going after this one fisherman, and it like culminates in this showdown on this iceberg towards the end, where the fisherman's kind of like drawn it out because the town's kind of shunned him, and goes one-on-one with this whale, and it kind of throws him around into an iceberg and kind of kills him and maims him and gets the revenge. So the whale is right through the whole movie, and watching it get its revenge in the end, and the ridiculous way it just somehow destroys this whole town and kills people was very, very good. I will give you one gaming thing though, in a sentence. The thing that I liked that was so bad it was good was all the discourse about all the bad games this year, and seeing people lose their minds over that. Like the day before, or whatever it was, Redfall, Starfield, Spider-Man not winning awards. Like just seeing people lose, just gamers in general losing their minds, can be an enjoyable thing from the outside.
Did you win the milkshake bet?
I fucking lost that milkshake bet
on a technicality.
It launched in some fashion, so
the game came out.
You go. Yeah, you got your game, Zach, but at what cost? At what
Everything.
That's
God,
right.
It's insane, and the people at Fnatic are just running away with their millions. Like they're talking about they owe this money. No, the way they made their money and they got the fuck out of there.
And then a week later, my game got cancelled.
Shit happens, as they said. Shit happens.
That's it.
It does.
Jono?
Yeah, I originally wrote down my response to this one saying I avoid bad things, so I didn't really have anything to talk about.
It's
but
such a cop-out.
I know, but I just don't have that guilty pleasure kind of bone in my body where I watch things that are deliberately bad. We don't have enough time for that. There's not enough time to watch the things or play the things that are good, so I'm not going to waste my time with things that I know aren't. But something that is kind of bad, and I kind of don't care, is the third season of The Morning Show, or Morning Wars, depending on which part of the world you live in. It came out as Apple TV's kind of like flagship prestige series with Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell, tackling some very like relevant issues of the time. #MeToo. And as it's gone on and covered COVID and covered, media conglomeracy and January 6th storming the Capitol. It's just gone off the deep end as far as some of the melodrama of its storylines. Brendan, I think you could probably back me up here that it's just gotten very out there, and it just tries to commentate on too much of real life for it to really
getting too woke, Jono.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, here's this John Hamm character. He's clearly meant to be some kind of version of like maybe an Elon Musk type or something like that. And you're just like, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing here, but it's not really working. But I still watched it all, and I don't regret it because there are some really good performances on there still, and they have an amazing cast still. But it's in a similar territory to kind of the Newsroom with Aaron Sorkin, where they just it gets a little bit too preachy. They try to do a little bit too much, and it doesn't completely work. And it's fallen out of that kind of prestige category of TV into more of a lower tier of almost guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I enjoyed this third season. It was certainly the weakest of the three, and yeah, it gets a little bit too. What other hip buzzwords can we throw in? It gets a little too meta, a little too woke. And this third season is definitely mid if the kids are still listening on at home now.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, it's certainly carried by the performances, but the stories are just getting too melodramatic, too much. It's like, yeah, anything that's topical in the news from the past 18 months, they just throw it in there wherever they can, and it's getting a little too on the nose for me. But yeah, it's still something I watch. But I also watch a lot of shit. So this sort of category is my life for the most part. Like, you talk about being so short on time that we don't have time for the bad things and we only focus on the good. I am swimming in a sea of bad things every other day here. The amount of nonsense anime that I consume that has that sort of harem subset where it's just unnecessary nudity, unnecessary sexual scenes and suggestiveness and weirdness, where I'm just like, yep, I'm putting that on the background as I do this, that, the other, is very embarrassing to talk about publicly right now because it is often on my television because I'm so up to date with everything else. I'm just working through the chum now. Like, I'm going through that chum bucket that fisherman probably used to lure the orca away that Buddy mentioned earlier. I am in that chum bucket right now, finding things to watch and consume with my time at the moment. So shout out to all the shitty, smutty, questionable anime choices that I've made this year. Another choice that I was a bit weird about at first, I saw it on goddamn targeted Instagram advertising where this lady in America that does like sort of little food hacks and stuff did a peanut butter and sriracha sandwich with a little bit of lime on it. And I'm like, this sounds weird, but I like sriracha. I like peanut butter. I like sandwiches. So let's spin it up. And I've done it a few times and I've really enjoyed my time with this sandwich. So yeah, give that a go if you feel like getting a bit kinky with your sandwiches over this holiday period. And the other one I want to mention, but it's more on it was just genuinely bad, but it's a shame because the cast that was attached to this game when it was announced at the back end of last year, which is Crime Boss Rocky City, which is like a first-person shooter that has Michael Madsen. Yeah.
Rocky City.
New York City.
Shout out to Matt Berry, though. He's the greatest. But it's got like, yeah, Michael Madsen, Danny Trejo, and a million other like
Chuck Norris,
B, C, and D listers
Vanilla
from yesteryear
Ice,
that are
Michael
lending their
Rooker.
likeness and their vocal abilities to this game. So I'm like, man, this is going to be just a great dumpster fire of good, and it just ended up being a dumpster fire of shit with some celebrities that I have a bit of a touchstone sort of moment with. So yeah, it was bad. It was very, very, very bad. I didn't really play anything that was that bad it was good this year, so I was sort of clutching at straws. I had to reference some type of game, and old Crime Boss Rocky City is the one that I'm going to bring to the podcast today. Anything else you all wanted to reference that was so bad it was good in 2023, or should we move into 2024?
Let's keep it rolling.
And is there a tree?
No, instead there's a pole. Requires no decoration. I find tinsel distracting.
All right. The last topic / question of 2023's version of Festivus is, what are you not looking forward to in gaming in 2024? And the nation says, in the gaming landscape of 2024, concerns loom large over multiple recurring issues that we seem to discuss year after year after year after year. The saturation of games as a service, particularly in titles where this model feels unnecessary, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, cough, cough, continues to scare gamers the most. Additionally, the industry's pattern of soaring profits juxtaposed with ongoing job losses remains a massive point of contention. The flow-on effect of layoffs leading to delays, which lead to underdone games, is something we have become all too familiar with. Combine that with the constant do we or don't we need yet another remaster debate, Jeff Keighley doing Jeff Keighley things, and the flood of AI-shaped gaming experiences, and you've got a year ahead that doesn't paint the prettiest picture. Jono, what are you not most looking forward to in 2024? Or do you want to sort of rebut or throw a bit more fire on the nation's claims there?
No, the nation's done a good job once again of compiling various issues. For me, just so I can give you the greatest hits of my time on the Hungry Gamers this year, I'll reiterate something that Tilby and I talked about, which was some of the turmoil at PlayStation that's happening amongst the executive level. We had Connie Booth leave, who's been there forever. Jim Ryan's leaving now that The Last of Us 2 online factions has been cancelled. It again brings back that thought of like who was pushing for games as a service, who's still there pushing for it. Are they the reason these people have left, or is person X being bumped up because they have a different kind of strategy? PlayStation's very tight-lipped about it. They don't really answer or refute speculation, so people are just kind of left to just run wild with it. One of the games that we knew that was coming out has been cancelled, which leaves very little that we know about. Like, we know Santa Monica's working on something. We know that Cory Barlog left the Ragnarok production team to work on something else. We don't know what that is. We don't really know what's coming from Naughty Dog. Insomniac just had this massive leak involving Wolverine and details of people who work there. So there's some turmoil happening there, and it's just a very kind of feels like a chaotic time. PSVR 2 hasn't really hit the way that we hoped. I think I said before, but like the fact that Brendan doesn't have one, Brendan buys every kind of gadget that exists, and he hasn't been drawn to it. So if he doesn't have it, then who's really the the audience for this? There's a lot, the PlayStation Portal has been popular with people who picked it up, but there's a lot of people that just feel like it's a stopgap from not producing a handheld console that seems to be doing very well as far as like the Steam Deck and some other kind of alternatives to that, as along with the Switch. So what's happening at PlayStation? What's coming out this year? What's Sucker Punch doing? We don't know so much of what's happening, and I am confident that they are still going to put out some great games as they continue to do so. We've got Final Fantasy VII, Ever Crisis. What's it called? Rebirth.
Ever Crisis.
What's Rebirth?
Oh, no, Ever Crisis was the one that dropped a couple of months ago.
It confuses me. Rebirth. That's exciting, but there are a lot of question marks, which makes me think, are we going to get some announcements and then very short windows of waiting periods before these games come out? We're going to find out what Ben's been working on. I'm hopeful, but also acknowledging some of that turmoil that's happening there and hoping it doesn't get in the way, because despite all of this stuff, they've still been smashing and kicking goals as far as sales and profits and all that kind of stuff. But we know that from other topics we've been covering on this podcast as well, profits don't necessarily mean things are in a good space and that people's jobs are safe and that kind of thing. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Valid. I am in lockstep with you there, JP.
Thank you for
Very
validating
so.
me,
buddy. Over to you, buddy. Do you want to validate Jono a little bit more as well? And then
I do. As a PlayStation fanboy, I agree. I want more direction and just something, anything, please.
Transparency.
Transparency. That's the key word. Just give us something. But the thing I'm not looking forward to in gaming in 2024 is Earthblade getting robbed of Game of the Year 2024 at the increasingly irrelevant Game Awards and winning Best Indie Game during a speed round of award announcements where recipients aren't given any time to give a speech or no stage time. So can't wait to be disappointed from that. Just like the travesty that was Celeste, hashtag Celeste Game of the Year 2018 robbed when, I don't know, some other small game won it. God War, who knows? Yeah.
It's very somber thinking that far ahead and knowing that your indie dreams are going to get crushed that way. And
Man, Twitter drafts have so many things of disappointments ready to go. Don't worry.
yeah, and the fact that they're just going to be a little cleft note, like they're going to be a graphic on the screen where they just bulk announce like 5 category winners at once in between some nonsense. Like it's sad to think about, but yeah, it's not going to change. Keely's got his not so secret sauce that he's working on now, and that's where the marketing dollars come from. So it's going to become less and less about the games and those sweet moments and more about corporate America. So yeah, I feel bad for Earthblade not winning. I also feel bad for myself because I know 2024 is going to be another year where I don't get to play a Dino Crisis remake. I know we were sort of pissing and moaning about remakes or remasters a little bit earlier, but like I've been harping on about this game for decades, and Capcom are remaking everything in their catalog right now, but Dino Crisis is eerily silent, and I can't stand it much longer. I'm on a sort of on tilt, on the verge of breaking down mentally and emotionally here right now, thinking about Dino Crisis. I just want to see how Regina's doing in 2024 and see how she's slaying dinosaurs and just living her best prehistoric survival horror life. So, Capcom, please don't let me down, but also I'm ready for the heartbreak one more time.
Ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Brendan,
I'm ready.
would you prefer a remake or a sequel?
A remake.
Remake, okay.
100%. Yeah, the first one's the best.
Yeah, they're kind of running out of stuff to remake over there. Like that, they can go back and remake the original Resident Evil, and then it's kind of like the games are getting too modern to necessarily.
No, like I think they'll either announce the original getting remade next or Code Veronica. Both, I would not be sad about either. So we'll see which way they go there. But yeah, where's my fucking Dino Crisis remake? God damn it! Like I'm not the only fan of this game. People will buy this game, but Capcom, I can't get too mad because these other remakes and just new entries to franchises I love are also doing very well. So I'm also appreciative. Where's my Dino Crisis? Mr. Tilby?
Well, look, we've talked about it quite enough already. Mine was sort of more just about the record profits that are going to probably come through in 2024, despite almost certainly more hardworking people across Australia and the globe losing their games development jobs unnecessarily. Doesn't really sit well with me, talking about how much we all loved games this year and what a great year for games it was when these people are being let go in some pretty stark and disappointing circumstances. We all heard the sort of pretty unnerving, reports of what was happening when people were being let go at Bungie, and that sounded like an absolute hell on earth situation, really. But I think away from that, in terms of more of like a games centric view, I think I'm really not looking forward to whatever Epic is going to try and throw on us in terms of the amount of Fortnite stuff, given that about a month or so ago we were just bombarded with about 3-4 different Fortnite related things, or Rocket League related things as well. Like we got Lego Fortnite, we got what is essentially a Guitar Hero, we got a racing game with the Rocket League cars, and just like all of this stuff that they're being thrown on with the Fortnite name and logo and Rocket League name and logo. It's fine. I love playing a bit of Fortnite now and again, just in moderation. But you're bound to get burnt out with that sort of amount of things being thrown at you all at once. And yeah, like it's cool. Give me a Guitar Hero game, like a modern Guitar Hero game now, and that's fine. But like, don't sort of try and tie it into something that it just doesn't feel like a true, like fully fledged sort of sequel or reboot in that sense. So yeah, look, I'm not looking forward to them sort of dumping it all on my lap next year without any sort of explanation. So
I think that's a little harsh. I'm going to defend Epic for once here because I live and breathe this Fortnite world now, even though I've hated it for years. I am a turncoat and I've bought in. And first and foremost, Lego Fortnite is fucking sick. I've been playing it this week and it is so fun, and it's not going to be a Minecraft or a Roblox killer, but it is right up there to potentially be a 1A to the 1B to the 1C. Like it is really great. Like it's a little light on with feature and function right now, but for a free game, free mode where you can build Lego in this Fortnite sandbox, hell yeah. I haven't played any of the festival stuff, so I haven't got any hard or strong opinions on the the Guitar Hero sort of rock band route they're going. They've talked about instrumental support coming next year, which, yeah, I'm with you. They are throwing a lot of shit at us all the time, and it can be overwhelming because their marketing dollar makes it impossible to hide from. But I think as long as like the fact that they're throwing in all these modes at no cost, I'm like, you know what, Epic, you're a giant corporate moneymaker machine, but the fact you're not hooking me, well, I do have actually the Fortnite pass, so they do have
Well,
me with
there
a
we
monthly
go.
subscription there. But like anyone else on this call right now can all jump in and experience this world for free. So I think there's some good that comes of it, but yeah, it is slowly taking over the universe at the same time, which is scary because Epic is a giant monster and they ain't slowing down anytime soon. But no, I'm all in. Lego Fortnite's the business, and Fortnite no build is also great. I'm gonna get Buddy in over the holidays to do a few rounds with me. Yes, ready.
But I was just going to say, watch Brendan turn next Festivus turn on Epic when they announced the Dino Crisis characters are only available in Fortnite, and they've abandoned any remake or new entry because releasing it in Fortnite was the only way they saw fit.
I would be furious about that, but I'd still buy the skins because
begrudgingly.
Yeah, I can't say no. Yeah, I was doing the count the other thing. I've got 126 different skins in that game now.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Epic have got me harpooned. The
Brendan,
white whale.
I think you just have to learn how to use Unreal Engine and make your own Dino Crisis successor.
There is
that trash one that came out earlier this year.
Oh my goodness.
One you were speaking about that you played briefly and
yeah, I tried to get my money back, but I played it for too long and couldn't get a refund, so that's a shame. But there's a game I think it's actually called like Extinction, but there's like some new age like Limp Bizkit type of wording in there where they've got a Z or some bullshit, and it's getting made by a studio out of New Zealand, and it looks phenomenal. I feel bad not remembering the studio name, but it actually looks like the next iteration of Dino Crisis. It looks so scary and so atmospheric. I'm following along with that very closely. So yeah, Extinction out of unnamed studio out of New Zealand. I'm very sorry. It's slated to come out, I think, the back end of 2024, and it looks the business. So I'm holding out hope, JP. I'm going to get some good dino action in 2024.
That's good. I mean, that's one of the good things about this industry is that if there's enough people that want something, it'll happen at some point. like Konami's not making Castlevania games anymore, but there's a bunch of really talented indies that make their own tributes to that franchise. Or, you know, there's a game like Shovel Knight or whatever that hasn't been followed up from Yacht Club for, I don't know, 9 years now. So there's people making games like
Mina the Hoa next year.
But it's not in that same style of Shovel Knight. So there's people that are like,
True.
okay, we'll make Bat Boy, and that came out this year, and a lot of people were really into that. So there, and you know, there's a game called Gravity Circuit that's done in the style of Mega Man. So there's a lot of talented indies out there that are kind of filling in those gaps. So maybe someone will come along and make your precious Dino Crisis spiritual successor.
Yeah. But it's fine. There'll be plenty of other things to play and occupy my time with in 2024. Of that, I am sure. So we're eating well. Like as fans, we're well looked after and well serviced. But as people living the game dev life, little not so much. My heart goes out to the people living that uncertainty every single day because it's fucked. And it's just so upsetting where you see record profits and CEOs getting multi-million-dollar bonuses due to games selling so well, and then like, oh, by the way, we've got to downsize our workforce by 4%. See you later. And it's just, it just doesn't make sense to me that, they can promote profits and how great they are as a company, and then let go half of their company to make sure that they maintain getting those fat profits into the future. But that is, that's capitalism for you.
Yeah, I think.
But boys, that brings us. Oh, what was that, Jono?
I was just gonna. I know it's meant to be a complaining episode, but I was going to try and end on something more positive and say that we can only hope that a lot of these game devs who've been put out of work can maybe like band together, form their own studios, and make some really awesome games. Which we've seen, like ex-BioWare people go out and make their own thing that did better than the company that laid them off. And there's a lot of now there's a lot of talented people out there that I'm sure could crowdfund successfully to put their own creativity together without the shackles of the corporate overlords. So let's hope that the indie space is able to gain from what we've lost in the AAA as far as those job security.
9,000 people coming together to make the greatest Dino Crisis game the world has ever seen. Yes! I cannot wait. But boys, anything else you wanted to mention or shout out here before we maybe close this studio down after this marathon amount of fire breathing and shade throwing and everything else?
We've done good.
That's unanimous silence there. So, yeah, thank you, boys, for coming on and airing those grievances and jumping on this very frustrated roller coaster that is Festivus 2023. Mr. Buddy Watson, congratulations on winning the Festivus poll. We will get that sent up to you in no time. Hopefully it'll be there by Christmas, and you can put that as a pride of place there on the back shelf in the studio, because it's a very special gift, one of one. Might even get it signed, so it's even rarer. But yeah, you can follow Buddy at Buddy Watson 12. You can follow Matt Tilby at It's Tilby. You can follow Jono Peck at Jono himself, and you can follow me at Brendan 8-Bit. But boys, it's been an absolute pleasure to ride in the podcast saddle with you fellas the last couple of months. Thank you for being my fantastic co-host, my fantastic residents throughout the back end of 2023. But yeah, 2 more episodes to go of THG for the rest of 2023. You've got the favorite things episode and then the biddies. There is still some time to get those votes in to shape those entirely community-driven awards. So check out at We Are 8-Bit on the socials, find that link and get those votes in for the biddies. We were making fun of Jeff Keighley earlier in the Game Awards. Maybe the biddies can be like the poor cousin to the BAFTAs and the DICE Awards and continue that ascension up the mountain of award ceremony greatness. But until next time, 8-Bit Nation, much love.
Stay hungry.
Stay hungry.
I'll see you around.